Hi everyone! It's been a while since I hopped on to make a video. I have been watching all the videos of teachers telling stories and doing activities with you. And it got me thinking about how much I love reading stories with you too. You all got a chance to meet Steve. He's my husband that lives at my house. And we were talking about stories that we love. And he was telling me that when he was a little boy, he didn't always like going to school. But one of his most favorite books to read was Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I was so excited when he told me that he liked this story because it was a book that I had in my office. And so I thought you might enjoy reading it too. So let's look at this book together. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This book's extra special because it has two stories inside of it. So I'll come on another day to share the second story, which is Pickles to Pittsburgh. But today we're going to read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and it's written by Judy Barrett, and it's drawn by Ron Barrett. I want to show you the cover. I'm wondering what you think this story might be about. I see three characters. I see four characters. Can you see the three people and the dog at the bottom there? I know we've had some rain, but I don't think our rain looked like this. I see some meatballs and I see some pickles, and the man looks a little bit confused. I'm wondering what you think might happen in this story. Let's find out together. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. I like spending time having pancakes with my family. You can connect. Have you had pancakes with your family? That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the town, the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them. I have a garden. I have a house with trees. A schoolhouse. We connect. We have a school too, Little Owl. About 300 people and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day. 1, 2, 3. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. You can see this man is looking out his door, ready to see what he's going to eat. Maybe he's waiting for his breakfast. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes. I love mashed potatoes. And green peas too. You know, I also love green peas. Not a lot of people love green peas. Can you connect with me if you like peas too? And sometimes the wind blew in storms of yum, hamburgers. Some of you might like veggie burgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. A prediction is a guess. People would think, we might have macaroni tomorrow, just the same way that weather people know whether we might have a hot or a rainy day. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, their cups, their glasses, their forks, their spoons, their knives, and their napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. I get hungry between my meals. I like snacks. Do you connect with me on that? The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. Can you see that milk raining down? For lunch one day, frankfurters. Frankfurter is another way to say hot dog. Frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans, and there was a drizzle of soda that finished off the meal. You notice in this picture, they're inside a restaurant that doesn't have a ceiling or a roof. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful Jell-O setting in the west. Can you see that big Jell-O in the back? The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flowers garden. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. There's a newspaper here. I'll read to you what the newspaper says. Spaghetti ties up the town. Traffic was snarled on the lower intestine street. One day, there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. Looks like the people have their nose is plugged. Something I know about gorgonzola is it can be a little bit stinky. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. I like pea soup, but I don't know that I would want to be stuck inside of it. Would you? Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. That sounds yummy. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. Maybe it's only yummy if you eat a little bit. Sounds like too many of those sandwiches can hurt your stomach. There. Look at this picture. So much is happening. I'd like to give you a moment to look inside of that tornado before I tell you what's happening. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing. Achoo! Sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. Find it interesting, this man took out his rowboat. I see something, a special treat I know a lot of us like to eat. Do you see those donuts there? Let's connect if we love donuts. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. It's kind of like us right now, isn't it? So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. You might hear some noises. I have my front door open and there's cars driving by. I thought it might be nice to have the sunlight come in on our story today. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter. See that huge sandwich? They took the absolute necessities with them. Necessities are the things that you only need. Maybe things like your clothes or things that are very special to you. And they set sail on their rafts for a new land. I want you to take a look at this raft. What kind of foods do you see in the raft? I spy a slice of pizza. I spy a slice of cheese. I'm wondering what you might think is being used as the flag on the boat. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well, well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. Some of those words were tricky for me to say. You see the bread houses there? They're calling them temporary, meaning that they're going to build other houses when the bread can't hold up anymore. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to chew and swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his good night kiss. There's Grandpa. The next morning we woke up to see snow falling outside of our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual, so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. I'll bring this closer. Can you see where they thought the butter might be? And how that snowy hill looked a little bit like mashed potatoes to them too? The end. I hope you liked that story. I'll come on another day and read this second story, Pickles to Pittsburgh. That's all for today. See you soon.